What's up, Rockstars? Today I'm going to be talking about the top 10 crowdfunded board games that were canceled, that we didn't get, and I'm sad about it. Of note, this is not in order, it's simply a list of the top ones. I didn't exactly order them because it's kind of hard to order something you never got. It's kind of sad. And some things are just a little bit also kind of odd. We're going to be covering at least one you may have never even heard of. In fact, a lot of these you may have never heard of. So let's go ahead and discuss, starting out with Mega Metro City. This was super sad. This was definitely disappointed in this one. This actually kind of almost got to light and then is now under, like, it probably won't deliver again also. I'll talk about that. So what this is it's like an 80s arcade game. Like if you remember, like going to the Pizza Hut and playing an arcade, or going to the mall, or going to the arcade place, or, you know, anywhere else where you could get an arcade, and you would see, you know, like X-Men, you'd see TMNT, you'd see all these different kind of street fighting kind of brawlers where you would go across the screen from left to right and do the side-scrolling fighting action. And that's exactly what this was, except it was super 80s theme. It had a, you know, like Gundam helmets and stuff like that, like little tidbits of stuff you could do. Looked like a lot of fun, a lot of combat and stuff that you could just, you're chucking dice, you're killing bad guys, you're having a great time. I love the style, I love the idea, I love the theme. This all looked super duper cool, and sadly, I will never be able to play it. However, Mythic Games actually bought the rights to this, like the actual rules and stuff like that, and ended up branding it as Anastyr. It was the same or very similar gameplay. Anastyr added mounts that you could do and stuff like that to be a little bit closer to like Golden Age. However, you guys know what happened with Mythic Games. So will we get Anastyr? Will I get this game? I'll never get Mega Metro City. Maybe someday I'll get Anastyr. But either way, very sad that this was canceled. Just didn't do well, I guess. It actually funded $127,000, but apparently that was not enough, even though they only asked for $59,000. So while they were unlocking stretch goals and all this stuff, they just called it quits. Boombox board games was no more. That was it. That's all there was. And I'm sad. Next up, we have Reign of Nations. This was actually a bummer. I covered this leading up to it for quite some time. I thought the art looked really cool. Like this kind of stuff looks awesome. Actually, it looked pretty darn professional, especially for some more indie stuff. The minis, while they definitely need some work to be actual final production plastic on some of them, they were definitely cool. Better than the norm. Look at all these sculpted bases and stuff. Like this was like top tier stuff, guys. This was actually not too bad. The renders aren't like terrible. Again, the art I think looks great. Like there was a lot of cool ideas with the game and the story flow and all that kind of stuff as well. I remember looking into a lot of this when it comes to like how this world became the way that it is. But sadly, never actually ended up gaining much traction at all. They weren't even close. And this was, I believe, the last we ever heard of it. So sad about that as well. We have Talos Collapse. This is also canceled again, wanting 100, gaining only 15 from 142 backers. And again, you can see some pretty cool minis, obviously, that got my attention. The art also quite nice. A little bit of a busy art department in the and the cards and the UI portion of that, but otherwise pretty standard stuff. I think really the problem here is the cost. Or at least also showing what you get for it and making it seem worth it. $100 for this, especially at the time that this launched in like 2019-ish, was just a no-go. It just was not matching the other alternatives that people were getting. Now, we know now that a lot of those are too good to be true, but definitely this hurt the indie side of things, just having it cost so much. I think that really did hurt it. So, but you know, would it have gone more than that? I don't know. We'll never know, I guess. This is a fun one. Mythic Battles Pantheon, the video game. I know I said board games, but I view a digital version of a board game legitimate for this list, especially because it was canceled. Big name. You guys may have not heard about it. Thought it might be interesting to talk about. Again, they wanted about $100,000. They got only 13. Very, very little kind of outreach on this. And honestly, I think like for a video game version of a board game, actually looks pretty darn legit to me. I think they were doing a great job being able to select your unit, have the cards. It's definitely playing like the game, having the 3D map you can kind of go around in. You can get all the different fights and tell it to do different things and stuff. Like, pretty legit stuff, honestly. I'm actually kind of really sad this didn't happen because I would have actually probably played this. I really like Mythic Battles Pantheon, and a video game version of it that looks as quality as that was going to, would have been all about it. But sadly, not a thing that's going to happen. Next up, a more recent one, Crystal Age. This was also canceled. You can see they're right under the 30s, so I think they would have funded that, but just barely. I'm sure they're coming back. And I'll be sure to cover it when they do, of course. But I will say, like, I just really liked the look and feel of this. It looked like a quick game. I could get to the table quite easily. It didn't cost me a huge amount of money. Maybe it was a little bit pricey for what you were getting. Maybe that's why it was a little bit of a turnoff, but it looked like a fun game that you could play through. I think they could have done a little bit more with the creatures and the abilities they give you and stuff like that, but otherwise, you're just gaining strength, gaining power, trying to be the most powerful, the quickest, and that's really it. And definitely, I think it had more potential than it got, which is perhaps why they canceled it. We will see, I guess. Avalonia. Guys, this is some Far Side games. I don't even know if they exist as a company anymore. I've heard mixed opinions on that. They actually tried to launch Avalonia, I believe, again, a second time, changed a whole bunch of things, and again it failed, so it's just not going to happen. You know, it's one of those things that's kind of interesting. Back in the day, I think a lot of people viewed Kickstarter as something you could do for super niche things, stuff like Cryptic Explorer and stuff like that, right? These like super niche art styles and different themes and stuff that not everybody's going to like, but there's going to be a core people that love it. And that was me for this. The theme of this, I was all about. This is an awesome theme to me. Just wild, crazy world that it takes place in, and just super duper weird and cool and interesting. And I was all about this. I really was. And the gameplay was fun too. I played mostly with my wife and she loved playing it. It's actually a really fun game. We played it well after the review even. And one of those kind of hits, right? Where, all right, I reviewed the prototype. Well, let's keep playing it. It's fun. But it didn't connect. I think the theme put a lot of people off. First of all, I think 100% it did. Otherwise, it may have just not been able to kind of capture how fun it is. Maybe, I don't know. Either way, did not fund. Esopya, another one I actually enjoyed. This is a kind of a card game with movement. But I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think the art could have improved some, how the art is shown, and I've seen some of the updated cards. They're still kind of working on this behind the scenes, like slowly but surely, maybe. Definitely an improvement. But I really enjoyed, just doing kind of battles like this. It was quick, it was easy, it was fun, and it had some, interesting things around the movement and the card abilities and whatnot. So, it was a light game. It was costing me $54, and again, perhaps that's a bit heavy. I think a lot of these indies really struggled with prices, especially around this time, right? This was around 2021-ish that this launched, and things were not going as well in 2021 as they were before. Euthia, Torment of Resurrection and Fierce Powers was canceled and was pretty much said no more. Now, you guys know how that turned out. People were able to finally get Euthia, but this one was one of the big bombs that people were talking about for a long time because it had funded, right? It had a 108,000 goal and they had raised 534,000. They come out and said they needed over $1 million to do it, right? I mean, it was just a really big deal that they canceled this. People were thankful they didn't just try to fake it like with Anastasia, where you make 1.1 million plus or something like that, and then say, no, this was not nearly close enough, but we took the money anyway, I guess. So I don't know. It just made me sad that this didn't work out at the time. Obviously it did, I think, overall. Beyond the Monolith core system for the Conan universe. You guys might remember this. This was fascinating. It was interesting that they needed 757,000 for what was essentially a whole bunch of reprints. I don't know the cost price there and why they said or thought they needed as much or whatever. I like a lot of it was still new development and stuff. But when it comes to actual cost of printing, it should have been a lot less, I feel. one of the issues with this and why it really failed was he never really found a way to do it well with repeated stuff. The whole idea was you have all these minis, right? You have Mythic Battles, you have Conan, you have all this stuff. But what if you could keep reusing those components to then play another game? In other words, it's like, hey, take your Conan and mix it with this and play this instead. You have that already. It's already on your shelf. You really just kind of almost need like the rules to it, right? Maybe some supplemental stuff. That was kind of the idea. The problem was, especially when it comes to gaining funds for something like that, and just trying to be fair, like unless you're only giving people very specific minis, you're giving them kind of a group of minis to play with again. And once again, people already have it. So it's like this weird quasi mix, and it's hard to explain how that's working out and stuff like that. And it just didn't work. As you saw, there's some new Conan stuff here, and they ended up making a Conan campaign that went wonderfully for them. And mostly it was about the same stuff. It goes to show how much pitch matters, understanding from the consumer matters, overall framing of an idea or a product, and it just matters. All right, lastly, I have Borderhaime Chronicles. This also canceled, and again, was one I was pretty interested in. I mean, just look at this art. Super duper cool. I liked all the different tile cards and stuff like that. It just looked, honestly, like a labor of love to me. I think there was some scare around like where they were from, because see, it's one of those Los Angeles, California, but then you look at like the team and it's all very much like more Eastern European sounding than anything. So there's a lot of that that I think there was some concern about for that. But honestly, it looks like this was definitely a passion project that they were really into. Actually, it looks like most of them were Ukraine with 3 US. So that explains that too. I didn't exactly remember where they were, so I didn't want to like assume, but there you go. They were from Ukraine, and there was some issue there because there was a desert game that came out very similarly around the time. I think they were based in like Pakistan or something, but then tried to pass it off as then they were in Canada because their brother was, or some weird junk. I don't remember what it was. It was something like Sands of Time or whatever. But either way, they had gotten in trouble. So people were getting really picky about that and really kind of scared around that, even though they're very upfront about it, you know, when it comes to where they're from. I remember that being a big contention point here. Additionally, I think a lot of people thought it may be too, there's too much to it, right? And it definitely was a big undertaking that they were kind of wanting to do, especially when it came to like replayability and stuff like that. But you guys can see it had so much potential. It looks so cool. I wonder how they would have done if they launched it these days. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, guys, there's a small, fun little trip down memory lane of all these games we either didn't get until a long time later or didn't get ever at all, or maybe someday might get a version that's kind of similar to the one that was bought, aka Anastyr. Anyway, that's my list. If you have anything that you're kind of sad about that you remember that was canceled, or maybe that's coming back, let me know in the comments below. I would love to kind of see what you guys are looking at or what you guys were looking at, and it might be worth looking into to either learn how to prevent that in the future, how to avoid that in the future, or just about cool opportunities that never really materialize. Guys, thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day. Take care, guys. Bye.